Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Mad Mamluks. My name is Sim. Along with me are my co-hosts, Sheikh Amir.
Assalamu alaikum.
And Mort.
Assalamu alaikum.
Welcome to the show, everyone.
Welcome.
I'm excited to have you guys on a wonderful Sunday afternoon.
A cloudy, nice Sunday afternoon.
It's not wonderful at all, Sheikh. You let the cat out of the bag. It's miserable here
I like it cloudy.
in Chicago.
Makes me
Why is it
calm.
miserable?
Makes me calm.
Well, it's just cloudy and dark, Mort.
It's relaxing.
It's a nice fall weather, bro. It's like you want to take a nap on a Sunday while later on watch football. It's a
Throw on
wonderful
those
day.
warm clothes and
Yeah.
turn on the heater and
All right, well,
have some coffee and tea.
I'm glad you guys see the
Hot
glass
chocolate,
full,
marshmallows.
half full.
This guy, people are like dying that he threw out the weather.
Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Anyways, let's.
You got a
guy.
sad face now. All right. Help us out on patreon.com/the Mad Mamluks. Make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Throw a comment section in the comment section below
Smash
your
the like
thoughts.
button. Smash it.
with your thoughts related to the show.
Smash.
Jazakallah khair for joining us. Our guests today are two wonderful brothers, one of them whom you guys are very well acquainted with already, Nadir Thabata of Islam by Touch, and his compadre, Ibrahim Salman of the Sound of Seerah Project. Welcome to the show, brothers.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Thanks for having us.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Salam wa rahmatullah.
I am the unofficial Arab Mad Mamluk. Let's go.
Nasty
Am I
Nadir.
official or am I unofficial?
Nasty Nadir.
Yeah.
I always-
nasty Nadir.
I imagine Nadir as a WWE wrestler.
it.
What would be your name?
Colonel Mustafa.
What
Oh,
would be?
no. No, man. My rap name is the Blind
I think
Truth,
it would be
you know,
something
so
like
we
that.
could go with that.
I would.
you know?
Let's just do like the blind intifada. The blind intifada. It's like a storm.
No, wait.
yeah.
He said he raps. I didn't know he raps. Did you guys know he raps?
Yeah, he released a new
All
song.
right. You guys spit a verse. Nobody here believes it. Spit a verse.
No, he just released a song. You guys don't even pay attention to the chat.
I'm
He
sorry. I
released
have
a
a lot
song.
of chats.
He was
but-
asking everyone to like and subscribe and share it.
Sorry, Nadir. I
And
didn't know
Mort-
about that. My
Well,
apologies.
see, here's the thing now that I generally don't pay attention. It's usually Sim's job to let us know what to like and do. He didn't report it
Gotcha.
to us, so you can just blame
Yeah,
this guy here.
report it, Sam.
But
You
why don't
just,
you
we
spit
just
a
take
verse?
directives from him.
Yeah, we just take directives. He's the Amir, right? The Amir had to tell us what to do. Failure.
I gotta post it up again because they age.
These guys are like VIP. I'm like their agents. I like to support their schedule. I run around.
Hold on, what a liar. Listen, nobody knows me. We were at ICNA and people running around, hey, what do you want to say for the video? So he's making all these Muslim of the world videos. Nobody knows who I am. They're all coming after him. Nobody.
Mashallah, Sheikh, you were going to introduce. Oh no, I was going to. I remember what I was going to say. I was going to play Nadir's
Yes, please,
song.
please. I know I haven't heard it. Just play a part of it, not all of it.
Let's just play it. 1 second. Let me find it here.
Nadir, you cool with that, right?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. No, I didn't know that you rap. Subhanallah.
Yeah, man. This is something I've been doing since I was like 17.
Really?
For all the super Salafis, mute now. With me music.
I have just the lyric. I just have the audio.
Acapella?
I have just the acapella too. Yeah.
Oh man.
So before you play that 1 second, so who is your favorite rapper of all time?
Tupac.
Nah, man. All right.
I'm a
I can't
Tupac.
believe you're from
Why?
New York, bro.
Why are you making our guests feel
favorite
uncomfortable?
I
rapper of
can't
all
believe you're from
time.
New Jersey, New York, whatever you, man.
Why are you making our guests?
Because I
feel
grew up in a
uncomfortable?
different era, bro. Like when you tell me,
you
I'm gonna
mean?
think of Nas. I'm gonna think of Guru, Gangstar.
Tupac is my number one all time, bro. And remember,
Yeah.
the Outlaws are all from New Jersey.
Yeah, I mean, look, man, I'm gonna go before that, man. Like for me, I grew up in a different era, maybe. Like I grew up where there was Rakim, there was Guru from Gangstar, Black Star, Talib Kweli. You know, what I mean, like
No, that's the same era. Black Star is black, like Talib Kweli and Mos Def.
I
are
mean,
like-
Tupac was like mid '90s. I'm talking about like if you want to take a Gangsta or Guru, that came up like in the late '80s. I mean, Wu-Tang was in the early '90s. Method Man was in the early '90s. Nasty Nas came out in the early '90s.
All right, hey, let's reel it in a little bit. This is not a hip hop show, okay?
No, but we're preparing him to release the audio. Yeah, are you getting enticed by your old haram ways, Sheikh?
No.
All right.
Oh, here we go.
Do you have the acapella version?
Can't hear it.
Yeah, it's the blood truth.
trying to survive the struggle in Palestine. Still we rise above the law, in the name of the law. You don't know us cause we ride till we die for the cause. Never pause, never stop, it doesn't matter what they got. Tanks, helicopters, Glocks, it's all for naught. As they build roadblocks, more people get shot. I throw a rock and they call it a terrorist plot. This has gotta stop, the way the story's twisted. That I'm evil because I'm Palestinian, or my people because of our religion, or anyone that stands up to Zionism. This is the condition that we live in. There is no forgiveness. World's a witness to what you've done, showing no compassion. So don't be surprised by the chain reaction. 9 letters, B-A-L-E-S-T-I-N-E, till we die. Spell it out, I'm riding for my side as we strive to bring freedom to Palestine. Till Allah says it's time, we hold the flag high. 9 letters, B-A-L-E-S-T-I-N-E, till we die. Spell it out, I'm riding for my side as we strive to bring freedom to Palestine. Till Allah says it's time, we hold the flag high. 9 letters, spell it out, this is what we're about. Bringing truth to the lies that fly out of your mouth. Cause it's about time for you to stand and account for the lives that you ruin in such a massive amount. Too much for one account within a lifetime. The world is tired of that same old lifeline. Use the death of the innocent to justify a genocide of a people that refuse to die. And yet we're the bad guys, according to the news and the media, feeding you whatever the devil brewed. Apparently fighting back is something terrorists do, and the words of the song have an anti-Semitic view. But it's not about Jews, it's about telling the truth and the right thing to do. How about if it was you? Occupation came, slaved the people and blamed you. Would you lay down and take it and decide to fight too? 9 letters, B-A-L-E-S-T-I-N-E, till we die. Spell it out, I'm riding for my side as we strive to bring freedom to Palestine. Till Allah says it's time, we hold the flag high. 9 letters, B-A-L-E-S-T-I-N-E, till we die. Spell it out, I'm riding for my side as we strive to bring freedom to Palestine. Till Allah says it's time, we hold the flag high. Not a Palestine anthem, this is my war cry. Cause peace will never happen as long as Israel tries to wipe us off of the map, but we'll never die. We'll just retaliate with hate and we multiply. As the so-called promoters of justice let it slide, and all the Arab leaders watch from the sidelines. So why should we hide our hatred inside? For many of these bastards we can't be denied. It's just a matter of time, victory is near. Why do you think I speak and move with no fears? If they kill me, a million more will appear, exposing monsters behind the crocodile tears. After so many years, still can't beat us. Try for 1,000 more, they'll never defeat us. For that reason, we're out in every season, living, fighting, bleeding, and dying for freedom. 9 letters, B-A-L-E-S-T-I-N-E, till we die. Spell it out, I'm riding for my side as we strive to bring freedom to Palestine. Till Allah says it's time, we hold the flag high. 9 letters, B-A-L-E-S-T-I-N-E, till we die. Spell it out, I'm riding for my side as we strive to bring freedom to Palestine. Till Allah says it's time, we hold the flag high.
MashaAllah.
Nice.
Who put your video together?
You know who?
Just after dawn on October 7th, 2020.
You know,
This is
we
an
don't wanna
advertisement.
hear-
No, but you know who your rap style is like? You remember Vinny Paz?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like Vinny Paz.
I like Vinny Paz. Vinny Paz is dope.
Jedi Mind Trick, in case you were. I know Sheikh
Jedi
Khan
Mind
who
Tricks
Jedi
is
Mind
dope.
Tricks is.
Yeah, but
I
I
Yeah,
I
so
don't know,
Vinny Paz is from Jedi Mind Tricks. He actually became a Muslim too.
I was
an
waiting
Italian
for.
Muslim from Philly.
I was
Yeah.
waiting for Ibrahim. Does Ibrahim have a part in your rap too? I didn't hear his
Yeah,
voice.
it's the part where tells you to be quiet.
I don't got bars like that.
No, man,
like you
mashallah,
said,
that's cool.
maybe
versions.
temporarily we can use his lyrics.
Okay, let
for
me just
our
stop the
intro
joke
of-
right now.
of-
It's gonna be horrible.
It's not a joke. It's not a
Oh,
joke.
okay. I
So
thought-
the intro for the some of the episodes regarding Palestine, we can throw it in there maybe, and we can represent.
Yeah,
our brother,
inshallah.
too.
Yeah.
Nadir, who did the song for this?
I wrote it. I produced it. I did all of it.
You played it on what? Well,
I made the beat. I did it all.
I know, but like you used keyboards or what?
I made it with. I had like a keyboard. I did it all in FL. I'm an FL Studio guy. So.
You
Okay.
sampled it.
Huh?
You did some samples and they added the keyboard.
No.
Oh.
No. I composed that beginning to end.
Nice.
Yeah.
MashaAllah, man.
I made the beat. No
A
samples.
man of many talents.
Yeah.
You know,
And that-
Beethoven was blind too.
No ghostwriters over here either. You know what I mean?
Beethoven was blind.
Later on in life,
Beethoven
yes.
was deaf, not blind.
Later on in life, he became
What?
blind.
Wait.
Oh, he did? Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but no, he was actually
How the
originally
heck do you
deaf.
know
though.
this? How does he know?
Because I like
you know these
Beethoven. I
random
listen to Beethoven. I listen to Beethoven.
He's a man of many talents as well.
I
Don't
think more like Beethoven the dog.
No, we're not. At that point, he's just
Beethoven
colorblind.
1, 2, 3. He's a blind dog. You know that the dog is
Yeah,
blind.
no. I actually like it. I like some of the old school Beethoven and Mozart. I mean, look, I don't want to get into all the, that, but yeah, he was blind later on in life.
More, dude. What the heck? I was like, how the heck does he know about Beethoven later on in life? That's pretty interesting. Anyways, man.
I'm not as dumb as I look, Sheikh Hammer. I know you have a
no,
negative
no.
opinion of people who have less knowledge than you, but we're not dumb.
Bro.
Anyway, let's get it going, inshallah.
Yeah.
But I, as I was saying before, I feel like I'm the official Arab Mad Mamluk. What do you guys think? You agree?
Yeah, man.
I think the Mad Mamluks are the official Nadir Thabata, bro.
Is that it? Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
All right. So, Ibrahim, let's get this party started. What inspired you to work on the Seerah? We've talked about the Seerah many times in our show in the past. It's something that's very close to our hearts. We've talked about how myself and Mort were instructors at Sunday school, and my primarily job was always to teach Seerah, and our principal over there, every beginning of school year, I would tell him, like, this is the only course or class I want to teach. I can't get excited about anything else.
Even though we had an unbelievable time trying to keep them entertained for the beginning portion of the Seerah, like a life, like just the part before Nabuwa. That's where usually.
So I think you hit the nail on the head right there, which is that the challenge is always engaging people to stay interested.
Yeah.
Think of it this way: if you are a hyperactive 12-year-old with TikTok and you're supposed to, pay attention to things for 3 seconds before you swipe up, are they going to sit and listen to an academic lecture about the Seerah?
Absolutely not.
The simple answer is no, and actually adults are guilty of this as well. Most Muslim adults, unfortunately, don't read books. If they listen to lectures, it has to be very bite-sized chunks in order for them to retain anything or for them to even listen to anything. The reason for this is that the media world has changed so drastically in the last couple of years that if something is not overstimulating, extremely loud, extremely flashy with CGI, then I'm just not going to watch it. Right? When was the last time a movie did super well in theaters that didn't have, CGI, didn't have crazy special effects and crazy big actors' names on it? That's, a deep, nuanced look into someone's life. That stuff doesn't fly nowadays. So when I really got interested in studying Seerah and reading Seerah books and attending lectures and stuff like that, the question that kept coming to my head over and over again is, how do I make this accessible to the average audience member, the person who's not out there attending halaqas and out there reading thick books and opening up Sahih Bukhari and stuff like that? It's really challenging, right? And really, Muslims have not been producers of media in any capacity, right? They're not really the driving force between what Muslims consume. Muslims consume Japanese media, they consume American media, they consume Bollywood. They don't consume things that Muslims have made.
Because
Wait, Rami is not Muslim content?
What was that?
Rami is not Muslim content? I thought it was.
No, it's what you call it. There is a lot of Muslim content out there, right? Like, you have awesome things like podcasts like this, like the Mad Mamluks, okay? Not to just shill it, it's an awesome podcast. But let's be real here. Most Muslim stuff that's been put out there for kids, for teenagers, is absolute garbage.
No. I think I got the point. I didn't take it that way. I mean, I'll be honest. Like, if you look at like Muslim cartoons, they're pretty boring. It's like, I mean, the graphics
boring,
are
they're childish.
Yeah,
They're horribly produced. Like the quality of the voiceovers and the animation is terrible.
right. Like, I think I think the biggest thing that we had for cartoons growing up was like the Salahuddin Ayyubi one, whatever it was. Remember?
Fateh.
Fateh, right?
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
And that was like, the graphics were just, it was just basically just like I think the guy just like took a still of like the like a video, I mean, or of like a page in like in an actual children's book, and just kind of moved around a little bit and then talked over it.
Yeah, just pivot animation,
Yeah.
very simple.
Yeah, it was,
Malaysia is actually coming out with some stuff which is a lot better than it was before.
Yeah,
but
but
it's still not up.
no,
to
but I'm
par.
saying like, but we've made advances in other things, like for example, like the adult content, like maybe NBC when they did like the Omar series, like that was much better, right? And maybe now Turkey's doing.
But we
that.
still
But
don't
for
even have that
children-
in English. though.
Yeah,
we
I'm
still don't
saying.
even have a good. We don't have a good dub of that.
Yeah, but what I'm saying,
You know what I
even
mean?
like for children, like there's nothing of the relevant content at all. And to be
Well,
honest,
so the idea
yeah.
behind the Sound of Seerah, when I first came up with it, and first of all, one thing I always like to get out of the way, the Sound of Seerah is not designed for kids necessarily. Like kids do enjoy it. I have parents telling me that their kids enjoy it, but it's not dumbed down for kids. It's not made as a children's show.
Okay.
When I first came up with the idea a couple years back, the idea was, how do we tell the story of the Seerah in the 21st century, for 2020, at that time 2022 or 2021? And you look, what are the different ways that you can tell the story? Out the gate, the first thing that comes into people's heads is a movie or a TV series, and there's a huge problem with that from the get-go. And the simple fact of the matter is, you cannot tell the story of the Prophet ﷺ and not include the Prophet ﷺ. And that's what movies end up doing about the Seerah. I mean, you watch The Message, you watch the Umar series. I mean, one of two things have to happen. Number one, they have to compromise on their deen, or they have to make the show or the movie not include the main character. And when you really think about it, the Seerah has to not include the Prophet. It may not include, the angels, the mothers of the believers. It won't include Isra and Mi'raj. It won't include maybe Abu Bakr and Umar and some of the other there's just so much that you can't show, that if you actually pay close attention to some of these movies and series that have come out, it's more about the enemies of Islam than it is about Islam. And when I came to actually create this project, I figured, okay, what is the form of media that could perfectly tell the story of the Prophet ﷺ and still be entertaining and engaging? And I came up with the idea of an audio drama. So
Ibrahim, before you go on too much, I want the listeners to get a sampling of what you guys created, and then maybe we could talk about it a bit more.
Absolutely. So yeah, the sample that you're about to show, I suppose this is from our season 1, episode 10, which, by the way, the Sound of Seerah, you can find it on YouTube, Spotify, all podcast platforms, Amazon Music.
One second here.
Stop.
Oh, I'm sorry. One second.
No, and that's why I was very surprised by it. I'm going to talk about it after we watch this clip, but I went into the mindset of, it's going to be for kids, and hopefully I can benefit from it. And
Hey, you! Don't get any closer! I said stop!
Put that thing down. I wish to speak to your master.
Let him in.
Abdul Muttalib entered Abraha's tent. When he saw our father, he was impressed. Our father was fearless, strong, eloquent. He felt humble. He even got off of his own throne.
Please, have a seat next to me. No need for a translator. I speak Arabic.
Thank you.
Please ignore him. He was the last Arab that opposed him. You're the one they call Abdul Muttalib.
I am.
I've heard many things about you, sir. You're a man of honor and lineage. Tell me, why are you here? Have you come to negotiate?
No, I have not.
Then what can I do for you?
I have come for what is rightfully mine.
And what is that?
Your soldiers stole some of my camels on their way to wherever you are going. I want them back.
What's yours is yours. I apologize for this transgression. I've come to serve Jesus Christ. Nothing else. You'll get your camels back.
Thank you.
Is that all?
Yes, that is all. I will be going now.
I must admit, I'm disappointed in you, Abdul Muttalib. When I first saw you, I had so much respect for you. You seemed honorable and brave. Most men cower before me, yet you came right into my tent. I've come to destroy your most sacred temple, the most holy thing in your religion. and all you care about is your camels.
Well, I am the master of the camels, and they are my responsibility. As for the holy sanctuary, Allah is the master of that. And he will defend it if he so chooses.
Excellent. Jazakallah khair.
Yeah. So
So who's doing the voice acting?
Yeah, I
on
wanted
this?
to know that. Who's doing the voices?
So we actually hire professional actors. So part of the expenses and the money that goes into the production is that we do hire actual professional actors for that. So that was Johnson Duro, who is an actor from Kenya playing the role of Abraha, and Ron Malo, who is another actor who plays the role of Abdul Muttalib. We also employ Muslim amateur actors. I use the word amateur just because it's not their full profession, but me and Nadir are both actors on the Sound of Seerah. Nadir doing a horrible job, and when I say horrible,
Wait. Hang on. Nadir is, let me guess, Abu Lahab.
yeah, correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Did you use the Arabic accent?
so Ibrahim, why is he a horrible actor?
Well, no, he plays a horrible character. He's a great actor.
I was telling that to
He's doing a
Sim.
good job at being horrible.
Can I get a potential role, like doing something stupid? Like, I mean, I can be funny.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we I think for season 1, which was a total of only 11 episodes, we had over 40 actors total for the whole production.
So
and we're looking to maybe like double that for season 2, inshallah.
So what do you do for your profession, if you don't mind me asking, to put this together? This requires somebody who understands the field of acting and drama and theater very well, and even like producing. Like, what do you do, if you don't mind me asking, or how did you get the skill set?
I'm a professional drama queen, which means that ever since I was a kid, I just love to be dramatic. I've never done it professionally as a job. I'm actually an accountant by profession, but this was always something that, I'd be super critical of TV shows and movies. I said, oh, that's a good production. That's a good story. This is not, this is a bad actor. This is a good actor. And when I came to study the Seerah, I realized this is the greatest story ever told. By far, second to none. I don't want to hear no Lord of the Rings, no Harry Potter, nothing. I've read and I've watched a lot of media when I was young, but as I got older and I studied the Seerah, I'm like, this is a far superior story. It's just never been told in a way that's digestible to the average Muslim. So with the Sound of Seerah, what we're doing is that it's not an academic lecture. So anybody who's like, oh, I've studied the Seerah before, that's great. This is not an academic, this is not another class. You're not going to hear a random hadith being mentioned or a verse of the Quran or commentating by a sheikh or a book or something like that. This is purely a drama, and I always say that it's a supplement to actually studying the Seerah. It doesn't replace it. Yeah. But what it does is that it gives you a feel for the events. It gives you a feel for the characters.
A feel for it is actually very important, because look, even on the way here, I brought my son with me. He's 10 years old.
Oh, he's here?
Yeah, he's here.
Oh, thanks for telling me.
He's chilling with Sim's son. Yeah. So on the way here, I was listening to episode 5 and 6, and look, somebody who loves the Seerah and somebody who's read the Seerah, and they hear it, just listen to episode 5. Somebody who has been teaching Seerah on an academic level, somebody who reads the Seerah just on their own, somebody who studied it, it brings a completely different perspective. Just the joking that Rasulullah was doing with Ayman in that episode 5, bro, that brought tears to my eyes, bro. I was like, it's just so different that you could just see the joking of Rasulullah, the healthy, pure joking that he was doing with Ayman about, I'm only going to give you a camel's baby. I'm not going to, so, and the whole setup that was present of telling the audience of what Khadija radiallahu anha was doing by covering her mouth, hiding her smile, that whole dynamic is, you can't get from reading books. So when you said this is not a replacement for the Seerah, I would say a majority of people who haven't read the Seerah, or a big portion of it, this is a great way for them to get started, to get involved in the Seerah, but also it's enough Because look, when you give a story, it's actually you're relaying multiple things. You're relaying information of incidences and events that happened, but you're also the challenge is relaying the feeling that occurred to an individual when this conversation was happening, right? And it was going through, the story of Waraqa, and in episode 5, and the whole idea of Waraqat ibn Nawfal passing away after he told Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the feeling that's involved in it, in the expression of the voices. Look, the sound, if we're not used to listening to sound books, like audio books, I'm sorry, it's going to take at least 5 minutes just to get used to what's happening. And it's just going to sound weird to most people because we're just not used to it being in the seerah itself, right? If people listen to audiobooks or listening to an author just reading the book out, right? This is actually a play that's acted out, and it's acted out pretty well. And I'm not just saying that because you guys are here. It's actually really well.
We try.
And in the feeling that's involved, that's captivating the listener, it gives a different, like, my son, he was talking about something, and as soon as I put it on, he was just listening, and he was just like frozen. You know what I'm saying? And so was I while I was driving. And my time went by, my drive went by really fast. And if you're driving, especially with your kids, like you said, it's not meant for kids, maybe specifically targeted for kids, but kids and adults will enjoy it, especially if you're with your children. You listen.
So this is great because I love how you don't have to be too academic, so I can get a role. Like I can be Ibn Nu'aymir. Who is that? Ibn Nu'ayman. Nu'ayman, I'm sorry. The Joker.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Amr, right?
When we get to that, that's probably in the Madani
Yeah, I can be the Joker, and Sim has I'd have a perfect role for Sim.
What's
Ibn
that?
Sayyad.
Who's Ibn Sayyad?
Just read about
I
it.
thought you were going to say something else. But that's
He's
good.
calling him the Dajjal.
Oh,
They thought he was, but he wasn't. He couldn't have been.
I
Well,
remember
true,
the,
yeah,
the
he
little
was
boy.
just-
Oh, wait, is it
No,
like the
no.
little boy or the? There was two
when
people.
When he was younger, and then like he would say, he would always be indirect to the prophet. He would act very suspicious around the prophet. And then even the prophet was very suspicious of him. And one day he heard him under a blanket, and he was like whispering things, right? And the prophet was trying to listen to what he was saying. And his mother had said, Ibn Sayyad, like someone's listening to you, he's hearing you. So he stopped, and then the prophet said, I would have known if he was Masih ad-Dajjal or not if that didn't happen. But it ended up being that he wasn't because that he actually had children and lived in Medina, right? But Umar ibn Khattab swore that was Masih ad-Dajjal because they saw him actually they saw him blow up in the street apparently, they get extremely mad.
He was a sketchy person.
Yeah, he was a very sketchy person, and he's like, I don't know, I am not him, but I know a lot about, or something he would say things like this, very obscure things, so people never really doubted him. But I just picture Sim being a troll, just walking on.
No, but imagine growing up your whole life, people are, the prophet thought this guy was a Dajjal, or maybe he couldn't. It's just imagine that.
What a horrible way to live, right?
Over your head
I know.
everywhere you go.
Exactly, it would be the most dishonoring thing, right? No one trusts you.
So another question is, how long did season 1 take you to do?
So that's interesting because when I first started it was around COVID time. So it started off as a one-man production, and this is what always happens when people get into it. They listen to episode 1 and they're like, okay, this is all right. Because episode 1, I'm going to be very honest, it took me a whole year to make on my own. I did most of the voices. I had to learn editing by myself, but it was COVID. I had nothing better to do. Alhamdulillah, the production value got much better, especially when Nadir came on with Islam by Touch. They are our official producers. It was very interesting, Nadir. I don't know if you remember when you first joined the project, you just called me up like, are you the one that made the Sound of Seerah? And I was like, yeah. And then
Let me tell the story.
Go, you tell the story.
Wait, are you based in Texas, by the way? Is he based? Are you guys
in New Jersey.
No, Ibrahim is
okay.
in New Jersey.
Okay, got
I'm
it.
in Texas, of course.
Wait, how'd you guys meet up then?
I met him doing Islam by Touch work. So I actually went to their masjid, the masjid that Ibrahim was involved in at that point. And then I just saw this guy, and I was like, this guy that's dynamic. He's open. He's funny. He's good with talking with people. So alhamdulillah, he volunteered with me from time to time, and that's it. You build friendships. Islam by Touch has been the hardest thing I've done ever in my life. It's so much work, but alhamdulillah, there's a lot of benefits that come from it outside of just offering services to blind people and making friends like even you guys, Ibrahim and so many others. This is one of the best benefits from it, alhamdulillah. So, let everybody cry.
Well, you were just about to tell the story of how you got involved, and you went on a tangent. So,
yeah, exactly. Well, because he asked how I met you. I didn't go on that tangent. Anyway, so you know, and I'm sure everyone has done this. You know, like you guys, you started Mad Mamluks. I'm sure whenever you guys first started, you were just messaging everybody like, "Hey, look, check out the podcast. Check out the podcast. Check out the podcast." Ibrahim was kind of doing the same thing, just going through. He got to a point. I think he had 3 episodes in or 4 episodes in.
Yeah, about 4.
And he was just messaging people like, check this out, check this out, check this out. So I just get a message on WhatsApp, and it's like Sound of Seerah from Ibrahim Salman. I was like, oh, okay. So I love audiobooks. I love them, love them, love them, love them. I was never a reader growing up, but Yadida was like, try audiobooks. So I tried it, fell head over heels for them. And I discovered this kind of audiobook called graphic audio, right? Graphic audiobooks. And that's where you have a full cast, right? You have soundscape behind it, like atmospheric music, whatever you want to call it. Sound effects. Like, you know, it builds the story minus the picture, right? So when I first started listening to it, that's what I was getting from it. I was like, yo, this is just like graphic audio. And I listened to the first full episode, and that's when I hit up Ibrahim. I called him. I said, yo, I said, are you the one behind this? He's like, yeah. I was like, did you think of like how much benefit this will be for blind people? He was like, no, I didn't, not at all. I was like, bro, this reminds me of graphic audio. And he was like, yeah, like this story, I can't remember what book what was the inspiration of doing it this style. There's
The Sandman by Neil Gaiman.
So
an Audible original right now. I'm not promoting him, but like that's.
But this style of book that I've been into, I love fantasy, like listening to fantasy books from authors like Brandon Sanderson and stuff like that. And he does so many books like this. And I was like, yo, this is awesome. And I was like, how are you doing this? And we started talking about it. And I was like, bro, I don't care what you think. We're getting involved. That's it. You know, because of not just the benefit. Like I first of all saw the benefit that this can have for blind people, right? Immediately. I was like, this is such a benefit for blind people. But just the impact that this can give to Muslims, giving this story of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in such an amazing medium, you know, in a way that anyone can consume, blind or sighted, Muslim or non-Muslim. Like, this is just an awesome way that we can present the story of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in such an amazing way that everyone can enjoy it. So,
and if I was going to piggyback off that, it's also a type of media about the seerah that you don't have to compromise anything, right? This is actually a feedback that I get from a lot of people. They're like, well, this is very different from the Umar series, and this is very different from the message because it is first and foremost the story of Sayyidina Muhammad. It's not about anyone else. And I can narrate it because I'm not showing anything. The whole visual aspect is gone. Just like the seerah has always traditionally been oral. It's always been an oral tradition. Yes, it's been written in books, but, you know, the best seerahs are the ones where people tell and just speak to the people and tell the story. And we're not doing anything different. We're just adding that layer of actors and sound effects. And, you know, Nadir helps me produce the original Nasheed soundtrack for the Sound of Seerah. We have our own artist that does the thumbnails and the art. You know, it's a full production.
Yeah, you know what? One thing I appreciate about this is that I know me and Sheikh Amir, our esteemed Sheikh here, we were talking a while ago, and you know, the NBC production is wonderful about Umar, but we always struggle with the idea of having that image, even of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh, right? Like, even though it was well done, but some of us, you know, it's just you don't want to have this locked-in image of the Sahaba or whatever it may be, or personalities, and of course, even more so with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? So someone can enjoy hearing the stories in a audio format without necessarily having to put a face to the characters, right? And I think the beauty behind that, of course, the first one is the utmost respect for the companions. But number two, it's always, I think, when people are able to imagine things about characters in their minds, they're able to relate to them more because they form their own image of this person, right? Like, and like, for example, like, you know, if I never met someone, like I've never met the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so we don't know what he looks like, but I have my own understanding of what he would, how, you know, when you read the seerah of how his hair would be dripping wet, or how his skin was neither black nor white, it was red, or how he would be walking quickly.
That's
when
why the
he would walk down.
Shama'il are so important.
Yeah, exactly, because you develop this love for the, and in your mind you think of what the perfect person would look like to you, because they all described they never saw anybody more handsome, more stronger than him, or more polite than him, more shy than him, and you put all these things together and you begin to think about a character, and then you relate to that more when you think about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
So
right?
how do you guys get around? You know, do you have an actor for the Prophet, or?
So the way it works is no different than if there was an imam telling you a story from the seerah. He'd be like, the Prophet walked in and said this. So I actually narrate the story. So there's a narrator, and he will say the Prophet walked in, and you will hear footsteps, and the Prophet said this. So there's no voice actor given to the Prophet, but you will hear the birds in the background, for example, and you will hear the people he's interacting with. So
and he's the only one that doesn't have a
yeah,
voice.
he's literally the only one that doesn't.
Everyone else has a voice actor, and the way I love the way Ibrahim does it. In this respect, and I'm sure he figured this out way in the beginnings.
Listen to episode 5, Sim. You'll know.
Kind of like watching The Message. You can kind of get some ideas on how to do the Prophet.
It's similar,
without,
but it's a different, profound look. It almost plays like a good trick on your mind, in the sense of you start to realize without even thinking about it is that the image is not important, right? The message is so profound, and the imagination is so powerful. Like the last thing that I would try to imagine, because this message, the way that Ibrahim produced this, I think it's so powerful because you're recalling everything that you've ever known about Rasulullah, and now there's this scenario. Like imagine sitting at a breakfast table, right? So when he's eating in the morning with Ali radiallahu anh, Khadija radiallahu anha, and Ayman, they set the scene of who's there. And everybody has a little bit of input of what they want to eat and it's so beautiful. And then you look back at the seerah, you're like, yeah, this is found in the seerah. But it's given a whole different thing where when you're completely zoned out into something and you're there. That's what it felt like. And that's when I was like, dude, I didn't know that. And it has to come from a passion. You have to love the seerah also. Yeah, but if you don't, it'll bring that love also.
I think what Sim is saying, like for example, even in the message, right? Like there was a special sound that would come up. And there would be like somebody would narrate or something, right? Well, and I think that including that in this is also important because it shows that respect, right? Yeah. And so I think the problem with the message again is that it's a video format, right? And you're gonna have to limit characters and whatever it may be, right? But in this you have a lot more. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. You guys probably have a lot more creativity because you're not displaying a picture or an image, right, or a video. You're able to kind of add surrounding effects and additional dialogue or whatever it may be because it's not a video format.
Absolutely. So I'll give you an example from like a very well-known, probably every Muslim, every Fatima and Muhammad knows the scene from the seerah where the Prophet ﷺ is squeezed by Jibreel and said, Iqra, read. Everyone knows that story. Mm-hmm. But when you listen to it in the Sound of Seerah, and this is actually feedback that I've gotten from listeners that tell me, it's like, I never realized how utterly cataclysmic and traumatizing this was to the Prophet's life until you actually hear like the bones creaking, the wind, the booming sound of Jibreel, played by Dorsey Jackson, who does an amazing job with the voice. Yeah. And the Rasul running back and banging on the door to Khadija saying Zambiluni, and Khadija's just utterly terrified. What happened? What's wrong? Like it's a very traumatizing experience.
He drops the pot or the teapot or something, right?
Yeah, knocks over the furniture, is staggering, is shaking. You can hear the blanket moving. Like it paints a picture, and we sometimes take it for granted. Like, oh yeah, this happened. For example, in Nadir's first appearance in the Sound of Seerah, he kind of played a background character in chapter 7, which was when Sayyidina Zayd ibn Haritha was kidnapped. Like everyone knows that he was kidnapped, but when you listen to the scene and you hear the mom crying and the kids screaming and the tent is getting ripped and this child is getting taken away by Nadir, who's playing an evil dude. I had people saying like,
bad guys, by the way. I play all the bad guys.
Yeah, Nadir is just the expert bad guy. So it really is. It's a different experience. You appreciate it a lot more. And I actually remember, Nadir, you were telling me that your wife couldn't get through the scene. She said it was too painful.
Mm-hmm. So wow. So for how much you've probably had to do so much research. Like every one of us has to do research when we prepare something. But since it's such a different format, the research is probably so different, but it helps you probably retain it on a whole different level, right?
Absolutely. So, Sheikh Maulana Yasir Khan, he's our resident spiritual consultant. He kind of looks over the scripts before we actually start recording for them. But really, I mean, sometimes the smallest detail is what we're looking for. So when I'm picking a voice to go for a character, it's like, okay, I'm choosing the voice for the uncle of the Prophet, Al-Abbas. What does he sound like? What do we know? And you could go for hours searching, and you'll find one narration that said Abbas had the loudest voice in Mecca. And that changes everything. And then you go and you try to do the voice that's like, very loud, gruff, rough, booming, deep tone. And that's the kind of research that we have to go in, because now you're not just telling the story, you're portraying the story, right? Like what would Abu Bakr sound like? What would Abu Jahl sound like? Each voice is different. What are the race of the different characters? This is another thing that like we had to do research and find out, oh my goodness, a lot of these companions are portrayed as white usually in media, and they're actually black. So it makes a huge difference. Zayd ibn Haritha, he looks like a Caucasian man in the message, and the narrations say that he was the darkest of the Arabs.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that'd be really cool, because I wonder, I mean, Nadir, mashallah, has a loud voice. Maybe he can play Qaqa bin Amr, I mean, because it's a nice loud voice. You know what I mean? So maybe you can do that,
down to play
I mean,
all of them.
yeah, but I mean, it's...
Yo, you don't know how much fun. I have so much fun whenever I step in my booth. I have a booth here between recording stuff for Islam by Touch, between stuff that me and my wife work on musically. And you don't know how much fun I have when I go into that booth and it's like, all right, Abu Lahab time. You know what I mean?
So do you try to get into the character, like, okay, Abu Lahab time, and you start thinking about all this nasty stuff and like
I have to he has a certain lahja, you know what I mean? So there's no Arabic accent really, right? Like, of course, whenever you say the Arabic words, you say them properly.
Yeah.
But like, I'm just talking normally. But he has this. I can't do the voice right now for some reason. He's like this. He kind of talks
like Jafar from Aladdin.
No, that's actually the voice that we chose for Walid ibn Mughira. So it's funny you mentioned that. Okay. When I did Walid ibn Mughira, I'm like, what would the most arrogant rich man sound like? And I'm like, Jafar. So when we do the voice of Walid, it becomes much different.
It's like bougie, right? It's like too nice. Bougie.
Yeah, very bougie, very just looks like down on everyone and everything.
Pompous. Yeah, absolutely. Wow, that's pretty cool.
It's a lot of fun, man. So I have a blast doing it, and so anytime it's like, Ibrahim's like, yeah, I'm looking for a character background. I was like, bro, I got you. Let's do it. Just tell me what you want me to say. I'm down.
Yeah, no, mashallah, Nadir has a lot of talent. And honestly, one of the best things about this is I always have so much fun working with the actors, because I'm with them in the booth sometimes. I'm with them over the phone, writing scripts and just directing their acting. And I love working with the child actors as well, like the actor for Sayyidina Ali. He's so much fun to work with. He has so much energy to it. Our actress from Khadija, who's all the way in the UAE, mashallah, she kills it as Khadija. Like, I've had listeners come to me like, she feels like my mom.
Yeah, it does have that touch to it. Yes, sir.
Did you guys ever think about, I don't know, you guys sound like you guys are going chronologically through the seasons, but there's some great like side stories. One of my favorite Sahabi is a prankster one, Nuaym.
Abu Nu'ayman. Nu'ayman ibn Amr.
Yeah, and he's got some great stories, like how he pranked the Prophet
in the food market, like in the
food market. Yeah, he took he bought a whole bunch of food. For those who don't know the story, he bought a bunch of sweets, I think, and or fruits, and he took it to the Prophet. He told the marketplace people that, oh, I'll pay you back this a debt for later, and he fed the Prophet first, and then he ran away
as a gift. Like, it was kind of supposed to be a gift.
Yeah.
And then after they ate it, he's like, oh, you got to pay the bill. The guy came to collect the money.
He said Muhammad is going to take the bill for this.
How are you going to ask the Prophet for the food?
Overall, we follow like the story chronologically, but we do it artistically, meaning there are flashbacks, there are side stories, there's like filler episodes, kind of, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Again, this is not necessarily like, it's not, a lot of Seerah books start off, for example, okay, we're going to talk about Adnan and Qahtan and the father of Arabs and how did Zamzam well, and it takes a long time before you even get to the birth of the Prophet. We don't do that with the Sound of Seerah. It's like we're going to throw you right where the story is interesting, and we're going to fill you in. Like you're going to get the background stories of these characters. You're going to get the histories and flashbacks, and you're going to see how it connects with Prophet Ibrahim. But we're going to do it artistically, and it's not a lecture. And it's those little moments that you mentioned, like, you know, the pranks of the companions and the pranks of the Prophet ﷺ that I live for. I love including them in the Sound of Seerah script. Because, you know, a lot of times when we read a Seerah story, it's just like, okay, Iqra, Mecca, Medina, Badr, Uhud, Fatih Mecca passes away. That's the whole story. And it's like, okay, but there are people, there are incidents, there are moments, there are little like interactions. There's the smile of the Prophet. There's the laughter of the Prophet. There's the Prophet racing with Aisha. Sure, that's not maybe integral to the story as a whole, but it's integral to the person of the Prophet
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Just as you were talking, I was just thinking of the storytelling behind Avatar: The Last Airbender, and how amazing that they were able to tell the story about this incredible world events that are happening, but through the lenses of little children who are kind of, you know, they have each of them have their qualities and attractiveness that pull you in, and you're seeing grown adults just loving that show, watching it, enjoying it with their kids. And I was thinking how you could even, I'm not saying that you should do it because you're already in this you know, the project's already launched, but it would be a fascinating way to introduce some of the younger companions, and show the life of the Prophet through their lenses, like Ali bin Abi Talib and etc. There's just so many young Sahaba at that time, and there's a way or a vehicle to use them as a way to project of what's happening in the world, you know?
No, of course. Look, all of this has to do with storytelling, right?
Yeah.
Imagine how profound stories are that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we're going to tell you the best of stories when you're talking about Yusuf alayhi salam.
Yeah.
Look, what stories did, not only the information that contained it strengthened the resolve. Why does Allah talk about the stories of the prophets? He's actually addressing Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and in extension the Sahaba, in extension the Tabi'in, the Ummah till Yawm al-Qiyamah, right? But why is he giving these stories of the prophets? Number one, to let Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, obviously he already knows, but strengthen even more, remind him of that fraternal brotherhood that he has with the prophets, right? But also strengthen the resolve of the experiences that all the prophets had, and because of the responsibility that they had, and everything that you're going to be facing, whether it's ease or hardship, is all a part of this process of being a messenger of Allah. But Allah is so generous that He gives stories, right? And when you see, even like in Islamic academia, when people start like in studies of tafsir, they start off with the tafsir. They don't start with the first juz. They don't start off, you know, sometimes they do start off with the 30th juz or half of the last 30th, but they'll start off with the middle surahs that are all stories, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it brings and it piques the interest in tafsir, and it brings a connection to the life of Rasulullah, right? Look, the actual goal is, the reason why we study tafsir, number one, is to understand what Allah wants from us in His speech, right? But this connection that you can't disconnect at all, it goes hand in hand with La ilaha illallah, which is Muhammad Rasulullah. How is Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam so fully connected in every verse, and how are we going to give that information and give this knowledge to people? The best way is through stories, because it is the godly way, meaning by way of Allah, giving stories from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as if, you know, like a mother tells the story to a child before he goes to sleep, or he's scared of something, how do we, even as parents, when a child is afraid of something, what do? We tell them, hey, listen, when I was young, this happened too. You tell them a whole story, right? Even until now, my 6-year-old son is one of his favorite things to do with me is story time, like at nighttime. He says a story, I say a story. He says a story until he's tired and he goes to sleep, right? Stories are a part of our DNA. They're a part of the way we're created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it's one of the best ways, if not the best way, to rejuvenate our relationship with Allah. And in this case, actually getting to know Rasulullah. So I think when I first heard about the Sound of the Seerah, I'm going to be quite honest with you guys. Like, I was like, you know what? Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. You know, it's probably for kids or whatever the case is, but it just completely captivated me, sucked me in to the point where I was like, oh, I'm already here. When I got to your house, I was like, I'm already here. And I just had it on autoplay. So the episodes were playing, you know, one after the other. So it has this way of, you may have a certain idea about it, but once you're in. Right? So I applaud you guys. Obviously, everything is from Allah, but I think this project, I've never seen anything like this before. And this is something that's so very necessary. And inshallah, man, me and my kids, we're going to be listening to all of this. What season are you on, by
this
the
is
way?
definitely a great time to binge watch our season 1 because, alhamdulillah, season 2 is going to premiere end of November, inshallah. So
Mashallah.
this is a great time to start binge watching. And honestly, I agree with everything you said about the stories. And subhanallah, one of the reasons why the seerah is so captivating to us is that it's not the story of people in history. It's the story of everyone. I mean, Abu Lahab is not just some guy that lived back then. Abu Lahab is the story of every toxic family member that tries to fight Islam. Khadija is not just a woman. She is the story of every supportive, pious wife. You know, the Prophet on Hira is not just a man sitting in a cave. It's the story of every person that feels disenfranchised and detached from the world and the problems of the world and seeking out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's archetypes, you know, like, and this is why all stories in the Quran and the stories of the prophets are so profound to us. There will always be a Fir'aun, right? Tune in into CNN tonight, you'll probably see him on TV, right? There will always be people that follow the way of the prophets. There will always be people like the companions, you know, and once you're acquainted with Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman and Ali, you start looking for those people in the real world, and you start recognizing, you're like, that person over there is, you know, is showing himself as someone morally good and someone good, but he's really an evil person. And it's like, that's just like Abu Hakam, and the Prophet called him Abu Jahl because he was actually evil. And you start recognizing these archetypes in real life because of your familiarity with the seerah.
Profound.
Is there a favorite of yours, a video that that you particularly really resonated with in terms of what you guys have released? Maybe you can play it for the viewers.
I think the scene where the Prophet adopts Zayd ibn Haritha is very, very close to my heart. It's a very you can actually find it on the YouTube channel, the scenes of the seerah.
Yeah.
It's just very close to my heart, that whole episode in general, because that was the first episode produced with Islam by Touch, and Nadir was on it. But I think that's where we finally nailed the formula.
And how long
every
generally
episode after it.
And for the audience, generally, how long is each episode, just so they're informed?
They range. So the shortest one is about 12 minutes, and the longest one is about 50. So it ranges depending on the storytelling and what we're talking about.
Is it okay if we can play that? That
Absolutely,
scene?
yeah.
Yeah, let's go ahead and play it.
So YouTube doesn't. We get the permission. Yeah, man, the seerah is just a different breed of knowledge, man. People consider it like stories, but it's knowledge in its most pure form, because it gives context to the Quran also, right?
Yeah.
I've spoke to some of the clansmen and they said his name was Zayd. He looks just like you. I spoke to some of the other travelers and had them speak to him. He said he lives with a very noble family. Apparently, he is owned by the grandson of Abdul Muttalib, a very honorable man, very generous and kind.
Muhammad?
Yes, that's the one.
My son, after all this time, he's been in Mecca?
Muhammad is an honorable man. If we pay for him, we can set your son free, Haritha.
Haritha closed his eyes, So many years had passed since his son was kidnapped. All he had to do was go to Mecca.
We ride tomorrow morning. One way or another, I am getting my son back.
Noontime was a peaceful time in Mecca. Muhammad had his back to the Kaaba. He had his eyes closed and was enjoying the warmth of the sun. Two men in traveling cloaks approached him. Muhammad opened his eyes.
Greetings, honest one. My name is Haritha. This is my brother.
Muhammad greeted them warmly and invited them to speak.
Muhammad, you are from the Banu Hashim clan, the people of the sanctuary. You are known for your generosity, your care of orphans, and taking upon yourself the needs of others. My son, Zaid, was kidnapped years ago and taken as a slave. And I am willing to give you what you want for him. Ask your price, and I will pay for his freedom. Honor us with your generosity.
Muhammad smiled. I have no need for your ransom. Why do we not let Zaid decide his fate? If he wishes to return with his family, then I will release him with no ransom or price in exchange. The two men were positively ecstatic.
You have been most generous and kind. You have done more than we could have possibly asked.
Zaid was called for. He arrived at the Kaaba not long after. As he walked inside the courtyard, he had eyes only for Muhammad. Haritha watched his son with his mouth open. His brother coughed loudly, hoping to break Zaid's gaze away. Muhammad put a hand on Zaid's shoulder. Do you recognize these two? He said. Zaid looked at his father and uncle. His eyes widened with comprehension.
Yes, I do. This is my father and my uncle.
The two men beamed at him. Haritha made a motion as if about to hug, but ended up scratching his beard instead. Muhammad continued, They have come to take you back to your family. Haritha was surprised at the look of shock on Zaid's face as he spun around to look at Muhammad.
What did you tell them?
I have left the matter to you, Zaid, Muhammad said.
Oh, in that case, I would never choose anyone else over you.
Haritha and his brother looked as though cold water had been splashed over them.
Oh, my son, do you not understand what this man is offering you?
No, I understand perfectly.
Haritha blinked several times very quickly.
Oh, my son, are you choosing slavery over freedom? A stranger over your own family?
I am.
But why?
I have seen something in this man that I have never seen in anyone else. And I am not the kind of person who would ever choose anyone in preference over him.
Muhammad smiled widely at Zaid. It was a beautiful sight to see. Haritha, on the other hand, looked devastated.
But how can I? How can? My son is not a slave. If you love your master, that's all well and good, but you are a free man, not a slave. I want you to be part of a tribe, to have inheritance, to have nobility.
Muhammad nodded in understanding. He took Zaid's hand and led him to the Hijr of the Kaaba, where all public announcements were made. They stood on the stone step. O people of Mecca, Muhammad shouted. A small crowd of people gathered around with interest. Haritha looked up in curiosity. I call everyone to testify that henceforth Zaid is from me and I am from Zaid. Zaid is my son. He shall inherit from me and I shall inherit from him. From this moment on, Zaid is free. Zaid was overcome with joy. He turned to Muhammad, his new father, and embraced him. Zaid's blood father and uncle were smiling in spite of themselves. Haritha had his hand over his forehead in disbelief. Zaid descended from the Hijr. Haritha stood face to face with Zaid.
You're free. You're from the Quraysh now. You are from the most noble tribe, the most noble clan.
He looked at Muhammad as well.
And from the best family. My son is now the son of Muhammad, from the Banu Hashim clan.
He looked very seriously at Zaid.
You are happy with this man?
Very.
As long as you are happy, then I am.
On that day, Zayd ibn Haritha became Zayd ibn Muhammad. A slave became a son. Zayd's childhood had been one of acceptance, gentleness, and love, because Muhammad was his father. He always had been. The day he was adopted was merely the day the undeniable was declared.
Your child needs these three.
Oh, SubhanAllah. Man, that's so powerful, bro. I almost got choked up listening to it.
Yeah, dude.
I can't even imagine, like, I can't even hit this topic. It gets me choked up just thinking about the death of the Prophet. When you guys get to that just freezes me up, man. I'm sorry. Yeah. Any thoughts, man?
Man.
Yeah, I mean,
pretty hard, bro.
No, I mean the narration of it is a beautiful story. And I think when people understand, I think when you're reading the Seerah, you don't get the. I mean, this kind of sets a tone in the background, right? When you hear like a father asking about his son, and to be honest, like you kind of get like this feeling of how Zayd radiallahu anhu, how he felt and his attachment to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? And just to be. Just little things, like little details, like he was previously known as Zayd ibn Haritha, and then it became as Zayd ibn Muhammad, right? And to have that honor, right? To say that, this is Quraysh, and, that this is from Bani Hashim, right? And the hadith, right? I think if people have a basic understanding of the seerah and they hear this, it makes it much better. Because when you hear, like, for example, the hadith that, from among humankind, Allah chose, the Arabs, and from the Arabs he chose Quraysh, and Quraysh he chose Bani Hashim, right? And from Bani Hashim he chose Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when you see how that honor that's bestowed upon him, and then you say someone becomes from his ahl, right? To be from the ahl of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and to be mentioned that way, right? It's huge. And you're talking about even Sahabas that would take pride when wahi would come down, even in correction of them. They would take pride in that because it was something so special to them. So being mentioned next to the Prophet, the one whose name is Muhammad, Ahmad Allah, the one whom Allah continually praises, who's continually praised, and your name to be mentioned next to him. Like, if you put these things together, the story becomes, like, and these things, right? And then you hear it in this format, it has a deeper impact. MashaAllah, tabarakallah, it does, definitely.
And the way we did it as well is that, Zayd's first appearance in the Sound of Seerah is in chapter 3. But we don't give a background to him. He's just kind of there because he lives with the Prophet. And it's not until 7 that you see his backstory. And it's like that adds so much,
depthness,
retroactively now more attached to him, because it's like, wow, he's been here this whole time. So I would argue that even if you don't have any familiarity with the Seerah and you watch this, it's going to introduce you and it's going to build that emotional connection with, Zayd ibn Haritha and the family and the household of the Prophet, which is really like, one of the things I wanted to nail from the beginning is the household of the Prophet, right? What did it look like? People like Khadija radiallahu anha and Ayman and Sayyidina Ali and Zainab and Ruqayya, like this was a big happy family. You know what I mean?
Yeah, mashallah.
Did you as we go through this issue with Palestine, are there moments from the Seerah that you drew inspiration from, that you remember, that you particularly resonate with? Like, man, I wish Muslims would listen to this part of the Seerah, or remind themselves of certain moments in the Seerah that can help give them inspiration, or that they can draw inspiration from as we've gone through this past few weeks.
I think the Seerah, and I'm not saying this as an exaggeration, I think the Seerah from beginning to end is play by play the exact same story of Palestine. Like, if you really look at it, because of what they believe in, a group of people have been kicked out of their homes and persecuted and denied access to a holy mosque, right? And they were weak and they were disenfranchised and they were forced to leave their possessions, and their loved ones were killed before their eyes, and oppression was rampant throughout the lands. And Allah gave them victory because they were patient and because they had faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is that not just the story of Palestine?
Yeah, bro.
Like, I mean, particulars, absolutely. Like, I firmly, for example, believe the story of Abdullah ibn Jahsh when he purposely killed a member of the Quraysh during a raid that went wrong, and the Quraysh came to the Prophet ﷺ and asked him to condemn the violence that his people had committed, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala literally reveals a verse of Surah Al-Quran which is like, قُلْ قِتَالٌ فِيهِ كَبِيرٌ وَصَدٌّ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Like, killing that man was bad, and it was against the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But what you have done, وَكُفْرٌ بِهِ وَالْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ وَإِخْرَاجُ أَهْلِهِ مِنْهُ أَكْبَرُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. Everything you have done is far worse. وَالْفِتْنَةُ أَشَدُّ مِنَ وَالْفِتْنَةُ أَكْبَرُ مِنَ الْقَتْلِ. We are literally playing that right now in front of our eyes.
Greater than qatl. Yeah. Bro, that verse, I can't believe you just brought that. I didn't even think about that verse this whole time during this whole conflict. That verse is so relevant. It's perfectly relevant. It is literally,
I mean, كُفْرٌ بِهِ وَالْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ. Like, you have disbelieved in Allah and you have disbelieved in the holy sanctuary. That is literally, and وَإِخْرَاجُ أَهْلِهِ مِنْ أَكْبَرُ, and you've kicked people out of their homes, right?
So
this is literally the story of Palestine.
What's important is that basically is that, like, the crime of disbelief and shirk billah is, like, see, the one who commits an unjust murder or killing can be forgiven.
Yeah.
Right? Either by diya or by, even if he had had on him, but even if he makes tawbah, Allah can still forgive that from that person. He's not prevented from Jannah. The one who dies on disbelief and the one who prevents others from belief, his door is closed.
Yeah.
Right? So that, I mean, it's not only something that's an evil action in this world, but it's even, there's a far greater consequence in the next. So when you look at that and you see people being, not only are they worshipping other than Allah, they're preventing people who do worship Allah, and then on top of that, they're persecuting them by removing them from the places where they are, so they cannot worship Allah. So when you look at all that together, that fitna, or the fitna that's there, is far worse than someone making an error in judgment, or maybe whatever it may be, and he killing somebody. That can still be forgiven, right? I mean, it can still be rectified, but these other things cannot be rectified.
And like I said, when you are familiar with the seerah, you will start seeing these archetypes in real life, right? I mean, you have someone like Abu Jandal that was tortured and locked up in a Meccan dungeon for half the seerah, right? If I was a political prisoner, that would be who I would be inspired for. I would be like, I am following in the footsteps of Abu Jandal. If I'm a refugee, I would follow in the footsteps of all of the muhajirin. If I was accepting refugees, I would follow the example of the Ansar. If I had family members that were killed in oppression, I would feel I would resonate with Ammar ibn Yasir. I mean, the seerah is a play-by-play of what we're living right now. And I think the biggest crime right now is that so many Muslims can't recognize that. They think that this is something new. I mean, it doesn't get any more like painful for us than seeing Masjid al-Aqsa being abused. And I want people to realize, like, there were companions at the time of the Prophet ﷺ that saw attempted murders on his life and they could do nothing. They would literally see, I mean, Abdullah bin Mas'ud was asked, what was the worst thing that you saw during those years of persecution? He said, I saw Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt strangle the Prophet until he lost consciousness and he almost got killed, right? And we couldn't do anything, right? So if we feel pain when we see things on TV, what the companions saw was way worse by far.
Yeah.
And that same feeling of helplessness that they had, but they had taqwa of Allah, they had firm belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And really, I mean, if I can bring the story of the Prophet ﷺ to the world and make them realize how relevant the seerah is, I will die a very happy man, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept.
No, Nadir, now I know what you were talking about this brother, man. MashaAllah. Now I know why you said you love this brother. No, you're doing a huge service, and look, it's making you think in the lens of the seerah, through the lens of the Quran and the Sunnah. The incident that happened between Zayd ibn Haritha and his father, right? His father said was expressing it to his son, which every father would love to do. Number one, imagine seeing your son and your son's choosing somebody else, right? That's something else. That's something that's unfathomable. But his father gives reasons. He said, look, I wanted you to rule from nobility. I want you to be free. So Rasulullah, when he makes that announcement, he's actually giving his father all the wishes that he wanted for his son in front of all those people.
It's the emotional awareness, right?
No, not only the emotional awareness, he granted his father's wishes.
Yeah, but
Muhammad
what I'm saying is that
granted
he
his father-
understood. He put his foot in his feet in the father's position.
Yes,
So
but-
being able to work. He also understood what Zayd wanted and what Haritha wanted.
Of course,
right? And he
yes.
found a way to. He didn't
Yes,
just ignore
between
and
the
say.
two.
He didn't say, "Oh, ignore your father. Your father's wishes or his desires are nothing."
Yeah.
Right? Because obviously, that he could have done that. There's no obligation to Haritha. Zayd made his choice. He
Yeah.
said, "This is what it was."
Exactly.
Right? But being in his nature, he also wanted to empathize and understood that his father wanted good for him.
Yes.
All right? So he complies with that.
He grants his father's wish, and then his father's like, "Oh my God, you're a part of the Quraysh. Oh my God, you're the son of the most noble person, right?" So he comes in with an idea of freeing his son because he wants good for his son naturally, but he leaves more happy in a state of him being Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's son, right? I mean, this is something that you can only find in Islam, bro. This is why Islam is amazing, and it is the only objective truth. There's nothing that can make you more happy than our deen, and what better way than the seerah? I mean, you just that verse that you were bringing up, "Wal fitnatu akbaru min al-qatl." This verse summarizes the entire occupation of Palestine from beginning to now, until whatever our future holds, we don't know. But that verse, and that I can only believe, has come to you by researching and understanding the seerah very well, and that's why the seerah increases your wisdom too, right? I don't even know how old you are. How old are you, brother? Ibrahim.
Me? Oh, I keep that anonymous.
Okay, good. I'm guessing under
He's
30.
younger
though.
than me. Let me put it to like that.
That narrows it down a little bit.
No, and subhanAllah, man, this is a great service. Man.
And it's just like both these brothers are from Palestine, and it's just
what a perfect combination.
It's a perfect combination for the show, and I wanted to know Nadir's thoughts. What scenes from the seerah resonate with you during these times?
I mean, it's similar to what Ibrahim was saying. Just looking at how they boycotted the entirety of the Muslims in the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Preventing them, saying don't buy, don't sell from them, don't do anything with them, right? And if you think about that, like just look, everything is controlled by the Israeli terrorist state, right? Everything is controlled by them, and I think that's a good way to refer to them from now on, personally, right? Everything is controlled and was controlled by them, right? And has been controlled by them. No food goes in, no water comes in. You can't have a job unless they allow you to have a job. You can't travel from city to city unless they let you in. They let you out, right? Right now, Gaza has been completely cut off from the world. No food, no water. What does that remind you of? Nobody sells to them. Nobody marries from them. Nobody buys from them.
No communication.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. And again, like inshallah, yani, a lot of this stuff, the season 1 covers about the first 3 years of the dawah, but season 2, I actually smiled when you mentioned Avatar earlier, because how we kind of divided the show is that it's book 1, book 2, book 3. So book 1 was revelation, book 2 is persecution, and we're going to talk about the actual persecution. And in the case of the Palestinian issue, I mean, season 2 is literally, you're going to have these archetypes of one of the very interesting things that I do when I'm researching is the different type of enemies of the Prophet. They all played different roles. Like, they weren't all these weird mustache twisting villains that, they just wanted to have these dastardly schemes and evil laugh. No, some of them were very diabolical in very different ways. You had people that were the propagandists, they were making poetry and telling people that if you listen to this person's magic words, he's going to corrupt your soul. And you would have people who are literally putting cotton in their ears. Tufail ibn Amr, for example, he went to Mecca, he put cotton in his ears because the media at the time was telling him, if this man recites and you hear him, it will bewitch you. So, and we have those people that are right now creating that propaganda that are making people put cotton in their ears, metaphorically.
SubhanAllah, I didn't even think about that. That's and the whole global shift, at least what we're seeing right now in the minds of people. There's so much sympathy towards Palestine, but you're seeing that there's these power brokers who refuse to comply with their demands, right? So you see that even during the boycott of that the Quraysh did on the Muslims, there were many people who were sympathetic to the Muslims, but because the power structures wouldn't allow any kind of thing to happen, they would, even those people within the Meccan society who were sympathetic, they couldn't do anything. And it's so important that Muslims understand the importance of these political structures, or people who are in power, because there's this kind of idea in some people's minds where politics is bad, and and we can't effectively or we shouldn't effectively try to make change to these power structures. And ultimately, this is one of these examples, is that the Prophet ﷺ was effectively trying to remove the entire structure of oppression in Mecca
from its roots.
Not, he wasn't trying to join their coalition or anything like that. And this is one of these examples that we learn from the Seerah, that his form of change was a societal change from the top to bottom, and this is what they were very well. And the Quraysh leaders were so stubborn in accepting that, because they knew what it meant. They knew the Prophet ﷺ wanted to change everything about fundamentally how they looked at the world. And
and for different reasons too. I mean, some of them really, I think, I'm trying to remember the author. Any case, one of the Seerah books that I read, the author mentioned that the Quraysh had no problem with the man; they had a problem with the message. They loved Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they agreed with him as a character, and they loved him and stuff. They disagreed with the message because the message offended them. Whilst you have the tribes of Medina loved the message, they hated the man, right? And they declared war on him because he was an Arab and we wanted somebody who was Jewish. But the message was the same message that they had been receiving from all the other prophets. So it's very interesting that everyone has their own motivations, everyone has their own personal benefits and personal ulterior motives that they have, and we may not fully understand it until you actually look into the Seerah and you're like, oh, so there are people nowadays that are in it only for the money, and then there are people that just hate our guts and they just want to kill all Arabs.
Yeah, and look, Sim, you talked about power structures, especially the power structure of in the lifetime of Sallallahu in the Seerah. Powers. Look, when we as human beings get together and we have a group of humans that we trust are going to take care of everything for us to make sure that we can live a vibrant, prosperous life, we refer to that as politics. It's the biggest enterprise, it's the biggest company, it's the most detailed company that you can imagine that there is, that humans have, right? So the structures that occur, someone can just say, like you're talking about politics. Now, politics is something that we shouldn't get involved in. And I'm not talking about what you may be thinking, what political involvement is on a superficial level as far as candidates and Democrats and Republicans. That's not what I'm talking about. The reason why the structure had to be changed is very, very, very important, and that's what the Seerah and the Quran is actually trying to change. And I'll tell you why. You mentioned, Ibrahim, that they didn't have a problem with the person. You're right. A lot of people will say, you know what, just change your akhlaq. Don't worry about politics. Don't worry about what's happening in the world. That's toxic. Muslims, our job is not to do anything in politics. It's only if the akhlaq were the problem, which they weren't, then why would they, ostracize Rasulullah and the Sahaba if it was only the akhlaq that was the problem?
Yeah,
it wasn't the akhlaq. They loved it. They wished that their akhlaq was like his.
Yeah,
they knew that he was almost divine in a sense of him putting the black stone in the Kaaba because he came from this lineage. Everything is intact. The lineage is intact. The person is the perfect person that they can imagine. The way he conducts himself is too good. Even his enemies would entrust debts with him. Even at Fath Mecca, he still had their debts, right? Even though they were at war, right? and they ostracized him and kicked him out of the land, him and the believer. So the akhlaq is not the problem. The akhlaq, everybody agrees that he's the best. The problem is the structural change that he was asking for. When we just say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, which is the root of the structure of Islam, it's not just Allah is one, there's none worthy of worship but Allah, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the final messenger, right? It's not just that. That's what it is as a summarization, as a maxim, as an axiom. Everything in the Quran and Sunnah can be summarized as La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. It's just a maxim. It's an axiom. What that actually means is, like you were talking about structures, every power structure has a slogan. Every power structure has a motto. Every power structure has a philosophy that is based off of, right? Yeah. Islam's structure on all levels, starting from an individual human level to a governance level, is based on La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. They were not okay with that. And the evidence also for that is, and the last thing I'll say is, they said to Rasulullah, you know what, you be responsible, you be in charge for one day, we'll worship your Lord for one day, and you worship ours for one day. Okay, you know what, we'll give you this, just don't talk about this, but we'll make you the most powerful person, but just don't talk about Allah being one, don't talk about the finality of you being the final messenger, but you can talk about everything else. Now, on a pragmatic human being would be like, you know what, this is perfect, they're giving me power, I might as well utilize it and just ride the train for a little bit. And then I can gain more influence, and then I can eventually be their statesman. I can be the person that everybody. But that's not what it was, because he knew that if they weren't going to submit to Allah of what the basic structure is based off of, which is La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, there's no compromise, because that's going to lead. Obviously, it's from Allah, but on a pragmatic level, that's going to lead to many other problems if they don't actually surrender themselves to La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, right? And that's what the Seerah teaches us, that it's a structural change. It's not just changing your akhlaq here and there. Changing your akhlaq is awesome, but that's just surface level stuff that's expected from everybody, right? What the Seerah is asking you to do is look at what he went through. Look at what the Sahaba went through. Look how devoted, and when Allah said something, it was sami'na wa ata'na. And look at the change. It's going to be very difficult. It's not easy, but it has to occur so that La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah is the foundation of this change. If that's not the foundation of this change, there's no success.
Any closing thoughts from Nadir or Ibrahim?
I mean, the only thing I will say, and I feel like it's self-evident, but a lot of Muslims need to hear it. Until we realize that the Prophet ﷺ was an example for us, and we mean that on every level, we're never going to get out of our situation. Meaning that the more acquainted we are with his shama'il, his seerah, his sunnah, the sooner we are going to be able to get out of this. I personally found a lot of meaning in my life through studying the Seerah, and I've become obsessed with the Seerah, and it's just gem after gem after gem. And whether you want to hear it from the Sound of Seerah or not, I mean, we try our best to put on a good production, and we hope that people will subscribe, inshallah, and listen to it on Spotify or YouTube or whatever. And we also have launch good right now for season 2. You can donate to that. That would be great. We'd love all that. But if that's not your thing, fine, read a book. Get into it, listen to it, like whatever it's going to take for you to get closer to the Prophet ﷺ and understand his life. That's what our ummah collectively needs right now, because we are so far from his life at times. I genuinely get distraught sometimes when I had somebody who just listened to a very quick clip from the Sound of Seerah, and I believe he mentioned that the Prophet's daughter Fatima came. He's like, who's Fatima? I was like, the Prophet's daughter. And he said, the Prophet had a daughter? I said, the Prophet had more than one daughter. He had a lot of daughters. And it's just this, this gap that we have between him and us that I think is the source of our problems. And, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from those that, we study the seerah, we study the life of the Prophet ﷺ, and we can be with him on the day of judgment, and we can follow his example. But until we realize that his life was an example for us that we need to follow, we're not getting anywhere.
Yeah, making the connection as well to the justice that Islam gives, and the justice that the world has, the United Nations, the United States, all these different pleas of justice that we know that they selectively apply it, that their form of justice is what it coincides with what their interests are.
Yeah.
They don't care about justice the way we, the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, care about justice. They just don't.
Against ourselves.
Facts.
They
Even if
care
it's
about
against
justice
ourselves,
when it suits them. They care about bragging about removing Saddam Hussein as an evil dictator, which he was, but they do it when there's oil involved and it suits their economic
14
interests.
years before that, 13 years before that, he was the West's best friend.
He was the best friend, right? So they apply justice selectively to suit their foreign policy needs, and they try to say, oh well, we did this because of this noble adventure about implementing democracy in the Middle East, or spreading peace and justice throughout the world, and they're complete liars, and we know that because of the actions that they've done over the past 30 to 50 years at least, of the various wars that they've gotten involved in. They think they could care less about justice.
Yeah, and look, we were talking about this before the episode. Like, international law is supposed to be the standard that everyone has to follow. No one's exempt from it.
Yeah.
Right? But the ones who are trying to make sure international law or enforcing international law is supposed to be the United States, which makes Israel exempt from international laws, right? There's so what is supposed to be the gold standard for justice, in this case international law, there's still entities that are exempt from it, right? So I think that's very, very important to understand, and very telling of what type of justice is needed and what type of justice Allah and His Rasul, actually expect from us. Which is why we're much better in our thinking, in what's in our hearts. Our lifestyle is far superior than anybody else's, and there's no shame in saying that. On a side note, everybody has like a type of curiosity. That's why the behind the scenes type things, people love watching that kind of stuff, and bloopers. I'm not going to ask you guys about bloopers because that can get a little weird when it comes to Seerah. But
they do have videos.
No, but I want to know, before you guys get into that, what was the funnest episode that you two did together? And it was like, man, this was awesome. It was fun. You guys had laughs, but give us a little behind the scenes of what. So when I'm listening to this, I have and the listeners have a behind the scenes of, okay, this is in this episode, this is what actually happened and what happened, and this is the type of fun that they had.
I'm a bossy director, so I'll let Nadir choose what was the most fun.
The thing is, we usually, whenever we get on a call, so I usually have Ibrahim in one ear. And I have my big cans over both of the ears, and I have my mic and stuff. So he's feeding me the lines because I can't see it, right? So he's feeding me the lines, and I'm recording them. And he's like, "Okay, do it again like this and like that." So we usually do episodes at a time. It's not like one episode at a time, but it's funny. Because while we're, if you actually go to that Sound of, what is it called? Sound of Bloopers?
Yeah, the Sound of Bloopers.
The Sound of Bloopers, which is the bloopers of season 1, you'll hear me just in the middle of trying to get a line out. And I'm like, what is that? Huh? What? And I just messing up. And it's just fun. That's just fun.
Got it.
Just winging it on the fly. Or like, okay, let's try to say it this way. Or let's pretend he's a mob boss. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So Nadir is the type of guy, when he wants to get into the zone, he'll like close his eyes and he'll be like, I am Abu Lahab. Abu Lahab is bad and evil, and I like to drink alcohol.
And I can't stand anyone around me. And my wife sucks, and my children are weak.
Almost
and
like Donald Trump
around me. This is the worst. He does kind of sound like Donald Trump.
Yeah. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but it might have been subliminal.
Yeah, he does kind of sound like Donald Trump a bit.
You do darn good Donald Trump.
One of my favorite characters to voice is Ubay ibn Khalaf, who he doesn't play a major role in the Seerah, but I kind of use him as a foil to Abu Bakr because that's what he was. He was like the evil Abu Bakr. Abu Jahl's like little minion, and I love doing his voice because I always imagined him as some kind of East Coast gangster, like, Muhammad, if you really think about it, I'm gonna kill you one day. It's gonna be wicked bad. So I always have fun doing that voice.
That's dope, dude. Wow, I'm glad you guys had fun with that. That's real nice.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun, alhamdulillah.
What's
Usually
the-
the sessions are at least an hour long. So
What's the name of that little rat looking thing in Lord of the Ring?
Smeagol.
Smeagol, yeah, he should be.
Gollum,
That voice should be incorporated into like one of those like characters, like one of those minions. Oh, my precious. You know what I mean?
we got to find a role for Mort. Mort wants in.
By the way, the Abdul Muttalib voice, that reminded me of Bane, just without the accent. When he was talking to Abraham.
Yes, it is I, Abu Talib.
No, not Abu Talib, Abdul Muttalib, the grandfather.
Oh, okay. Yeah, actually,
It sounded-
it's funny when the actor was asking me what kind of voice do you want. He started playing around, so I have to work with the actor to kind of find the right voice before giving them the lines. So he played around with these old man voices, and they kept sounding so feeble. And I was like, Abdul Muttalib was old, but he also had a presence. He had a haiba to him, right? So I was
Yeah.
like, could you do Gandalf?
When I think of Abdul Muttalib, I think of like James Earl Jones, like a deep, like just commanding, like you know in the Sandlot where he's just like, speaking about it. Like that's how I feel, like a deep presence.
That's kind of the voice we went with Jibreel. Like if you listen, like every time the angel Jibreel is around, his voice is just like deep and commanding and royal, and it was the actor does a great job for it,
Awesome.
and to make it feel like this is an otherworldly presence.
Yeah.
Wow, dude. I
You
can't
know,
imagine how much
this project just sounds it sounds so fun and interesting, and I'm just so glad to see people like yourselves, just having fun with. I mean, it's a serious subject, obviously, but it's so fun to be part of it, right? I mean, if I wasn't doing this, what we're doing right now, this would be something I would be totally on board for, and it's just because there's so many Muslims who are wanting to get involved in things and they don't know exactly where to direct their energies, and it requires work, but you can have so much fun with it,
Yeah.
and there's so many other things that you could be involved in, something similar to this, related to many of the stories of throughout Islamic history, from the Crusades and Saladin Ayyubi, or the Mongol invasions. There's so many heroic stories.
This is the thing, right? Like this is the testing ground, right? The Sound of Seerah is the testing ground, and to see how well it does, because this, like, whether people like it or not, the audio medium is the medium for Muslims, right? This is how we consume, so like we consume so much of the information. We don't like the imagery, right? That's something that we just don't like, the actual pictures and of people. This is why the Sound of Seerah fits the Seerah so well. You don't have to worry about drawing a picture of the Prophet ﷺ or anyone else, right? So inshallah, if we, right now we're starting season 2, book 2, and the thing is we want to get to a point to where we're not, it's not just us fundraising and Islam by Touch, putting it on, you know what I mean, fitting the bill for this. We want to get this to where we can get a budget, we can put together a legit production, people can dedicate full time to this, and we can really push through the Seerah and then move on through Islamic history in a way that engages the listener. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It engages the listener, it brings them into the scene, it lets them be a part of it, and they enjoy it, right? It's not just like Ibrahim said, it's not just going to the masjid and listening to a lecture and you fell asleep through half of it, so you don't even know what the hell's happening. No, it's something fun, it's something you enjoy, and it's a way you can experience and be proud of your history, right? This is all of our history. Doesn't matter if you're Arab, if you're Pakistani, if you're black, if you're white. If you say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, this is a part of our history, and this is how we bring that history to life in the right way.
If people want to help contribute to the project, where can they reach out to?
So definitely, our launch good is going through for the next 2 months. We have a modest goal. This is the first time we actually do public fundraising or crowdsourcing, because it's always been a lot of money came out of our own personal pockets and Islam by Touch's own reserves, and just friends and family pitching in and stuff. We really want to bring it to the next level. So the launch good is out there. I'll link it in the chat or in the comment section. But that's first and foremost, is definitely that. The other thing is really listen to it, market it, share it around. The more viewers and listeners we get, the more committed we are to it, the more we can push for it. And by the way, we try as much as possible to make each episode quality production. Like we're not out here trying to put anything that just, we're just telling a story and I'm just a guy on a microphone talking. No, we're competing with Hollywood, right? And the budget is still very manageable. Like it costs around $500 per episode, which is not a whole lot when you look how much it costs to create some of these other productions out there. We can really expand it. We can push it through, and hiring actors, getting more artwork, getting more nasheeds, like all of it that goes in. And hopefully we can get to a point, like Nadir said, where we have a full team. I mean, we already have a team, but we want a full team that's on the payroll that can push this out and produce quality content that the Muslim world can enjoy and consume and learn and benefit from.
Yeah, I mean, $500 is not that bad per episode if you think about how much like audio engineers charge and studio time that most other people will pay for and things like that. $500 is not really, it's a bargain.
Director and producer Ibrahim, sounds nice.
Not to mention the hours that go into editing and all that stuff, right? It's all heavy and intensive.
And a lot of it is Ibrahim and I and this personal group of team of members on this team that really do a lot of the background work. You know what I mean? And that's despite, Ibrahim's full-time job and everything I do with Islam by Touch and the kids and wife and everyone else that's a part of the team and their full-time jobs and their families. We want to get to a point to where if we're able to get, whether it be a sponsor, someone that makes us a part of their big company as with a budget, to where we can actually dedicate full-time jobs to this work, then we could really put out not just the Seerah in a better time span, so to speak, right? But then we can focus on that production. We can move on to other things that you guys were talking about, right? Other parts of Islamic history that is important, that will restore that izzah to the ummah that we are desperately needing right now.
I'm hoping like a nasheed comes out like from this, like how when they think of Aladdin, it's a whole new world, like everybody knows it.
A soundtrack,
like a soundtrack,
Sound of Seerah soundtrack.
Yeah,
that'll be great.
We're already in talks about that. I don't know if one of the actors that's on the team, every time we're done recording, he's like, "So are we gonna turn this to a musical anytime soon?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't think so. We're probably not gonna turn it to a musical for a lot of reasons, but no, the soundtracks and the background sheets and stuff like that we're in talks about releasing.
Yeah, as long as you don't,
Sound of Seerah.
As long as you don't get that guy that's saying like what was that, the Muslim Christmas song?
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about?
The
guy with, the guy with the ugly Christmas sweater.
This is the thing with Muslims, bro. Whenever they try they take something that's known in the Western world, right? Like that guy, he did cringe. Hallelujah, but he did like.
Oh, Sayyid. I'm a fan of Sayyid,
or something like that. Like the guy has a nice voice, but why you got to do that? Why can't you go?
Bro. Like, I mean, I'm not knocking his voice, but for me, that's so cringe.
Like, coming out with Muslim Queen as compared to Trap Queen. What the hell is wrong with these people?
Yeah, I mean, look, for me, I feel like we are rich with our own history, our own culture, our own flavor. Like, why do you need to take something? I feel like what that does, and this is no shade, this is just my own personal opinion. I feel like you're trying to take something that's popular among them, and even though you're putting your own words to it, people who recognize that also know the song you're taking it from, and it automatically brings back the same memory of those songs, right?
And it what's called,
so
comes
pointless
off
to
as
me.
a rip-off, you know?
Yeah. Like when I heard the Christmas song, I'm like, oh, this guy's singing, Deck the Halls, bro. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like it's all.
Imagine I did that Palestine track to the same beat and the same verses as
I don't know, Jesus Walks, right? Like
Gangsta's Paradise.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah, like, we get it.
Living in the Palestinian open air prison.
Yeah, so that's
don't
my
know.
only gripe. So I feel like I don't mind the talent and using. I mean, I know that there are various disagreements about music, whatever. All I ask is like, be as original as you can because there's plenty of talent. There's plenty of resources. I mean, people will, you know, they will want. There are people that want that content, right? And so they want to be. And the more original you are, like I think the more your audience will resonate with you. Like there are people out there. What was that one guy that came out with a song recently? He was I believe like a hillbilly guy. It was about like the way the American economy is right now and the jobs. Just some guy with a banjo in the middle of the woods, and like it just blows up. Like people just love the song because they resonate with it, right? He has his own flavor. He didn't rip off some old other music. He literally just put his own artistry into it, and then people loved it because it was original, right? And I think the more original you can become, the more people recognize the talent, and they also appreciate it more. They tend to grow a fan of you because it's like, hey, this guy put in the work. He just didn't rip off a beat or rip off a melody and then just kind of cover it with a nice voice. You know what I mean?
A cover.
I put a rule on myself from the very beginning of this project. I'm like, whatever happens, whatever you do, just concentrate on making it good.
Yeah.
If you can enjoy it and you can really look at this project that you're doing proudly and say, I definitely did my best and I did something that is genuinely good, the rest doesn't matter. Whether it ever becomes popular, whether it ever breaks even, or whether it becomes viral, doesn't matter to me. All I want to do is create something that's good. Because subhanAllah, like you can't just slap Muslim on something and it's half-baked, it's terrible, and go like, oh, I wonder why it's because they hate Islam. It's like, no, it's not the case.
Yeah.
You can't accuse someone of hating Islam, you know, as a mask for poor writing, poor visuals, poor audio, poor acting.
I love the point that you brought up because that's something that we always strive to do, right? We're like, hey, if we're gonna put something out there, it has to be the best of the best, right? At least to the best of our ability, right? Because for us, I think, I mean, I don't want to speak for everybody. At least for us, though, like, I mean, for me, is that, you know, this is part of tawakkul, right? Like, you have to just do everything you can do, the best of your ability, and then beyond that, Allah carries it forward, right? If He wills it to be something He uses for the benefit of the ummah, He does. If not, He doesn't. But that reward is not going to get any less or any more. I mean, it's all based on your intention, right? So, but you have to. It starts with you doing the best you can do, right? And so, if we're going to put something, and that was one of the reasons why, to be honest, I feel like Muslim content is so far behind, because when we would listen to other content, right, we'd open up like a Muslim lecture or like a video, and it would be like 480p in like a laptop mic, right? Like, who's gonna listen to that, right? Like, I mean, you spend time listening to Joe Rogan or watching Netflix or whatever it is, right? Or like HD quality music, and then like you're gonna come up to like, you know, just listen to some guy who plugged in like a mic into his laptop, right?
It's no competition, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not entertaining for them, right? It's like, okay, I heard enough of my ears hurt.
The palette changed, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like I would never go back to watching TV in 480p now, right? I would just never do that, right? I don't care what it is. I'm going to try to find it in 1080, right? Just because you get used to it. And so likewise, Muslims need to not only keep up with the time, but even eventually get to a point where we're cutting edge, like where we're actually putting out stuff that hasn't even been, you know, pioneering in the field, right?
Yes,
but that'll be years forward, but at least we have to get to the on par with what people are used to today.
But at least even on a content level. And that's why, look, I'm not just saying this because you're hearing our guest. This is something that's very different and pioneering, even with content and with the quality, man. MashaAllah, man. You guys did it, and may Allah increase you guys and continue improving and continue. And I don't even know. I wanted to ask you guys, I know that we're running out of time, but I mean, I know you mentioned how many hours and how many days some of these episodes take, but how much of your day is consumed, or your week consumed with? Because this seems to be something it's like a project. You do something else full time. So how much time does this take from you, like from your day? Especially being so detailed.
I mean, it ranges. I can definitely tell you now, because we're so close to releasing the new season. I don't go to bed before midnight, at least, because I'm staying up editing. I'm staying up, you know, contacting the actors and scheduling with the studio. And my phone is constantly by my side. And alhamdulillah, I do work from home a lot of times. So I do have the chance to, you know, have two laptops at once and try to multitask and stuff. But it's very time consuming. I really, really wish I could churn out episodes faster and stuff like that, but you know, slow and steady, and just do it with ihsan and whatever time you get. And I consider it like this is a form of sacrifice. And one of the things that I've been struggling for the last 2 weeks because of what's going on in the world is just you're just consuming, and it's just so much negative energy and so much, anger and hatred in the world. And it's like, okay, put your focus on producing, do something productive. So that's been helping me. I mean, the Sound of Seerah has really been therapeutic for me in that regard, because I can just sit down, disconnect from the news and the internet, and just, okay, we're going to start editing, we're going to start writing scripts, we're going to do things that will, inshallah, get people close to the Prophet.
Yeah, it's just something that Ibrahim takes charge of this thing, right? Like, this is his baby. So even if I what about this? What about that? I'll give him suggestions, but he's the creative mind behind this situation, what we're doing, the Sound of Seerah. He's the one that came up with it. So Ibrahim generally takes charge of a lot of it. Alhamdulillah, I'm happy to say that I try to help in any way I can.
You're a huge help, Nadir.
But listen, I have a lot on my plate, so I usually dedicate. It's usually at night that I sit down and I'll message the Nasheed guy, because I have contact with an acapella guy. He's a guy, I can't remember what Latino country he's from, but he does an amazing job. So it's like, all right, bro, I got this, I got that, and I'm the one handling all that. I'm the one, if Ibrahim has a theme song from a movie that he's interested in, I was like, all right, I want the feel of this. Okay, so I'll hunt down a guy that I worked with to remix it, right? To remake it into something different but similar. And then we'll go back and forth, and then I'll send it to our guy that does the acapella. At first, Ibrahim was new at all this audio engineering, so I was like, all right, I'm pretty good with audio. Let's look at different tools, And so it takes a lot of time of research, just trying to get it right. And alhamdulillah, I think our flow is really on par right now. It's really on point in regards to getting it done. It's just if we imagine we can dedicate our full time to this, right? Like the output would be fast. It would be awesome. It would be the quality would be good, and we have a lot more to put out. But alhamdulillah, we take the bits and pieces that we have and we do the best we can with it.
Nadir, Jazakallah khair for coming on that, Nadir and Ibrahim. My heart was just been everyone's heart is just so heavy with what's happening in Palestine, and it's so hard to even talk about anything other than Palestine. And I'm so glad that we had two brothers from that land on this show today. It made me feel a lot better doing this show, because I know, even though we're talking about the Seerah and stuff, it's just like 24/7 that's just been on my mind, and doing everything I can, using every moment I can to highlight the issue, whether it's on Twitter, Facebook, with the podcast, anything I have at my disposal, I'm trying to use that for the cause. And I know there's other listeners who may have talents that can contribute to what you guys are doing, whether it's on a production level or voice acting. Is there any way they can get involved? Are you guys looking for help in any direction or any specific area that they may be able to get involved in?
Volunteers are always welcome. If you got the skills, don't just be like, I like it. So I've never edited anything before in my life, but I'll give it a shot. Don't do that. Yeah. But if you have skills and you're willing to volunteer, whether you enjoy doing some voice acting or you want to give that a shot, if you want to do some nasheed, like background vocals or something like that, soundscaping, whatever, what's the email? Just the Sound of Seerah
soundofseerah@gmail.com. So yeah, just reach out. Again, some of the people that I found in this production, only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have put that together, like the series of events that led me to find Nadir and Islam by Touch, only from Allah. The series of events that got me to find some of the actors and the studios, and just everything. It's all planned from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So whoever you throw my way, inshallah, will be beneficial to the whole project.
And of course, I'm sure Sim, if you don't mind, just share all the links, inshallah.
Yeah, of course. Make sure you guys send it to me after the show, and I'll make sure it's part of the episode description. My personal recommendation to people is to just go on Spotify, unless you guys have a specific recommendation. But
it's on anything that makes noise. If you're an Audible guy, it's there. If you're you have Apple Podcasts, go for that. It's whatever you'd like. If you want the subtitles, it's on YouTube.
Yep.
Like I said, the first episode maybe is a little rough because it was way back when I was a one person, but alhamdulillah, I'm sure you'll love the quality.
I've been yelling at this guy to remaster it, but
yeah,
I don't want to take away the views and all that stuff. I'm like, don't do it, man. You know?
No, inshallah, if you like the first episode, you'll love the rest of it. If you're not a big fan of the first episode, I feel you. Just soldier through that one, and I promise you that the second one and the others will be much, much better. But inshallah, everyone on this show, hopefully, I see some fans behind those microphones right now. So inshallah, you'll be binge watching in the next couple of days.
Yes, sir.
Inshallah, man. Guys, jazakallah khair. I'll make sure to put all the links after the show's up, and you guys, whichever way you guys want to contribute, whether it's financially or through your own talents, make sure you guys reach out to these brothers, and make sure you, most importantly, whether you're contributing or not, share. That I can't stress that enough. It's when the efforts like these are new and just coming up, it's important to build that momentum, and that way the algorithm kind of picks up on it and shares it to a larger audience. So it's so important that you guys share it right now. With that being said, please go ahead and like the show if you haven't done so already, and comment in the comment section below with your thoughts related to what we're talking about today. Otherwise, we'll see you all next time. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.